Hi folks, thanks for stopping by. It's been a minute since I uploaded a YouTube video, and this one is kind of multifaceted. Most of it's going to have to do with a series of tests. It's not, hopefully it won't be too technical, but it's also a little nostalgic walk back in time, and I'll get to that in a moment. We're at Mike Kilo Whiskey India, which is Kirkvine in Manchester, the parish of Manchester in Jamaica in the West Indies. This used to be a gravel strip back in the day when I first visited it. I think I was about 11 or 12 years old. And it basically was one of the most impactful experiences when I was able to fly on a Britain Norman Islander from this airport to Mike Kilo Tango Papa, which is where we're going to be going today, and that's Tinson Pen in Kingston. So we're inside the Beechcraft Baron 58, and this is by Black Square, the professional version. And I'm just going to get things going to see if I can get this started up. Here's a quick disclaimer. I'm not going to be doing any proper checks, flows, procedures. So anything you see that's incorrect, more than likely, will be incorrect. I just want to see if I can get this thing up and running without blowing myself up and to test. Now, the test that I'd mentioned before has to do with the fact that this is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I had 2020 before. I just picked this up a couple of weeks ago because it was on sale by 25% off, I think. And granted, my machine is not exactly as robust as the recommended specifications are asking for, but I wanted to see if it would work at all. So I figured, why not give this a test run to see what happens? Now, later on, or maybe I'll just put it in the description, the specifications of my system. But be that as it may, I'm going to see if I can actually get this started. And I think it's working, which is good. And once that's started, I'm going to see just how smooth this flight is. Now, I fully expect to have micro stutters, macro stutters, and major stutters. I'm filming this at 1080p. When I had 2020, I was able to film at 4K and 2K and with greater FPS. This is not going to be that. So I'm sure those who are keen-eyed and are adept at seeing how this thing is supposed to look will notice that this is not as crisp and sharp as many YouTube videos that are out there. But in any case, let's see if we can get this going. I'm not going to deal with pitot heat because we're in Jamaica and it's hot. I don't think the pitot ports are going to freeze anytime. We're going to be doing a VFR flight at 5,500 feet from this airport over to Kingston, and it's just going to be a direct straight line. So I wanted to see if it was worthwhile using Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 on this current system. The GPU that I have is an RTX A4000. It's an equivalent to an RTX 3070 Ti, I believe. But the real obstacle for this particular computer that I have is that it has a Xeon W255 CPU with only 4 cores, and that's the bottleneck. Yes, you heard right, 4 cores. Yes, I'm probably embarrassing myself, but anyway, you work with what you have, no problem. Anyway, once we get the GPSs aligned, we will release the brake and head out to the runway. We'll be departing runway 33, and that's heading towards a hill, so we have to do an immediate right climbing turn to get on track towards Tinson Pen, and there are hills all around. So we have a minimum climb rate of 1,500 feet per minute. I may do 2,000 just to make sure after initial takeoff, because yeah, it's surrounded by hills and it's a short runway, and technically I should be doing a short field takeoff, but I'll see just how well this works. I'm going to set this with 1 notch of flaps and see if that will suffice. Now, I've never run this in this simulation version before. Let me just set the flaps here. There you go. So we'll line up. It's runway 33. There's the hill right ahead of me. So I'm going to do an immediate right turn once the wheels are off the runway, and then hopefully we can clear the rest of the hills and the ridges off to the right. So we're kind of facing north-northwest now. We're going to be turning directly east-southeast, and we'll then do the autopilot and then go for it. So we're going, airspeed is alive, and let me see if I can keep this thing centered on the runway somewhat. It's a bumpy run, and it's also a lot of heat thermals here too. So anyway, rotate, positive rate of climb, gear up, and then immediate right turn. And now we keep turning till we get on track, and then once I'm on track, I will then just turn on the autopilot, set it to nav mode, and once this stabilizes, then I will talk about the nostalgic part of things. Flaps up, and let's see if we can get this thing sorted. Okay, so that's on, autopilot's engaged. This should now be tracking on course. Alright, there we go. Okay, so what's this nostalgia business? Mike Kilo Whiskey India Kirkvine Airport was an airport which is about, I guess, 20-25 minutes from a boarding school I used to attend when I was about 10 years old. It was my first high school. I know for some people listening to this, high school at 10 years old. Well, Jamaica is a Commonwealth nation, and it follows the British system. We start high school at a younger age. So I was at a boarding school then, and I remember I had the opportunity to come home. My dad usually would pick me up, but he decided to see if I could get a flight out, and it turned out that that airport handled local domestic flights from the central interior of Jamaica to Kingston, which is where I was going. So I was able to fly in the co-pilot seat of a Britain-Norman Islander, and now to an 11-year-old who's already enamored with aircraft. That was like Christmas days. Like I was in a candy store. The reason I was able to sit in the co-pilot seat was because the passenger seats were all filled. It was a single pilot operation, and that was the only seat left. So that had a big impact on me. Now, this aircraft is not a Britain-Norman Islander. It's a Beechcraft Baron. And this was basically the route that that aircraft took. Now, I'm climbing out and leveling out at 5,500 feet here. Let's open up the cull flaps, or close them rather. And I was so impacted by this flight. Now, I always liked planes and stuff before, but this pretty much sealed my intention to learn how to fly. And this was some years, I would say about, I was 11 years old. This was 6 years before I migrated to Canada. So I was finishing up my high school here before I came to Canada. But the whole idea of leaving a country school in a rural area, flying halfway across the island. Oh, and by the way, the island's only about 144 miles long, and I think about 55 miles wide at the extreme points. It's not a very big island, and if I recall, now I have to fact check myself on this, I think the total square miles are 144,000 square miles for the island of Jamaica. Cuba is to the north, and it's about 90 miles north, and Cuba is the largest Caribbean island. We're looking south now to the south coast from this viewpoint, and it's a long way down to South America from this point, so there's not really much between the south coast of Jamaica and the top of South America, like Guyana and Suriname, and you can just barely see the north coast from this viewpoint on the left side of the plane. So the island is not very large, but it's very hilly in the central interior regions. Most of the flat areas are by the coastline. Now, tourism is big on the north coast of Jamaica, like Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, and the west coast is Negril. The south side, not so much so. The south side is more, well, for Kingston, the capital, it is more I was going to say industrial, but business centered, I guess. There's some elements in the southwestern section of the island, a place called Black River in St. Elizabeth, where they're expanding the tourism infrastructure. But for the most part, most of the tourism takes place on the north side. So right ahead of us is the city of Kingston. I'm going to set this up so that we can prepare for descent. And yeah, this is where most of my life I grew up, in that area down there. Now it's spread out a lot since I left. What did I leave Jamaica? I left about 40, this August will make 48 years since moving to Canada. So a lot has transpired since then. And the reasonable facsimile of how this looks within the simulator is just that. It's just a reasonable facsimile. I wouldn't call it precise or anything. And certainly given the extent or the lack of extent of power that my system has right now to run this version of simulator, it's not probably showing it in the best light. But you can get a good picture just seeing how it unfolds coming down. Those mountain ranges over to the left, which is over to the east and the northeast, that's the Blue Mountain Range. Those are the tallest mountains in the island. They're just over 7,000 feet. It gets pretty cool up there. That's where you get Blue Mountain coffee, for those of you who are into coffee and have heard of that. And yeah, so it's the mountain regions follow the central spine of the island. Most of the flat areas are along the coastlines. So most of the major centers, two major centers are Kingston and Montego Bay. Montego Bay being the tourist center, and Kingston being the business version. So we're going to drop down for a bit, and just that little spit of land just above the compass on the glare shield, that directly ahead is Norman Manley International Airport, which is the international airport for Kingston. And that's usually, well, that's where the major airlines fly into. We're not flying into that one. We're actually going to be going over just slightly right above the altitude indicator. You're going to see a little, looks like a little inlet curving to the right. The airport's right by there, the tiny airport of Tinson Pen. So we'll be landing there and seeing how that works. So we'll be shortly disconnecting the autopilot and seeing if we can make it in with some semblance of grace. Those hills just over the left engine, I used to live at the halfway up those hills, just above the foothills. A place called Havendale. It had a beautiful view of the city. At nighttime it looked awesome, just seeing all the lights. But anyway, so this is kind of just like a nostalgic recap of a time when I was able to enjoy a flight in from Central Jamaica to Kingston. And it just occurred to me to record this, and I guess it's, as I said, just for nostalgic reasons. It won't win any prizes for, how this thing looks, because, as I said, I think I have scaled back the resolution and the clarity of this in order to have it somewhat workable. But as I said before, it's not the smoothest, it's not the most sharp, but it's still representative of the island, and there's a lot of fun memories. I've had family members there, family members who have passed, family members who have moved away to other countries. But you always have an affinity to your place of birth. You always have that connection, that tie to where you came from. And I just thought I would share it with you guys. So that's it. This is going to be the landing. Let's see what I make of it. Well, that's not very much on the center line as I had hoped, but yeah, we're down in one piece. Anyway, thanks for coming along. Welcome to Tinson Pen Airport. And as I said before, it brings back a lot of memories, and it certainly was an integral part of making who I became, I guess, once I got to Canada. I'll see if I can make some more of these with some stories attached to the scenery and the scenarios, and I'll see if I can come up with some more information about Jamaica. It's quite the island, actually. It's quite unique. It's got its cultural notes. Most people know about reggae. Some people know about Blue Mountain coffee, Appleton rum, the food. Oh, you can't beat the food, man. Anyway, that will be it for now. As I said before, I appreciate you showing patience because I didn't follow proper procedures or systems checks or anything. But I just wanted to get up, get across, get down to see if it worked. I will consider whether or not this is actually going to be worthwhile with the system as it is. I may have to upgrade or get a new system, but it was fun trying anyway. So I appreciate you coming along for the ride. Until next time.